Joined from Virginia by Captain Hung Cao. He is retired from the United States Navy. He's the GOP nominee for Senate. Good morning, Captain. Welcome back.
Good morning, Hugh. How are you doing today?
I am great. Tell us about the election. Voting has begun in Virginia. I hope you have a chase program underway.
Yes, well, obviously you see I'm in a hotel room because we're barnstorming in Virginia. We've been doing this for the last 4 weeks with the governor. But you know what? So on Friday was the first day of early voting. They have 45 days, but they squeaked in one more day, so it's 46 now. And on the first day, there were 20,000 more voters than there were in 2020. And in
Oh,
2020, it was leaning 40% Democrat, but on Friday, it was leaning 16%. So we've closed the gap by 24% in just one day.
oh, that is terrific. Now, Captain Cao, today, Kamala Harris is going to the border, and she's going to try and talk tough on immigration. A, do you think that's going to work? And B, does that issue matter in the Commonwealth?
It does matter in the Commonwealth, and I guess the word is going to be, better late than never. But she was the border czar. I've been to the border down there, and everybody's hurting. Americans are hurting because when especially where she's going in Arizona. I was in Yuma, and 90% of all leafy vegetables are grown in Yuma, Arizona. And if they find an illegal alien sleeping in the field, they must burn that entire field because they don't know if that person brings any communicable diseases. So if you wonder why the cost of produce goes up, well, that's why. And how it affects
Cap,
Virginia, especially. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to ask about Virginia. All three of my children, six of my grandchildren live in the Commonwealth, and they all complain about the cost of groceries. Because, young families got to buy a lot of food. Do you hear that often on the trail?
Absolutely. I mean, Americans can't afford to put food on the table. They can't afford to put gas in their cars, and they can't afford to buy a home. And it's all because of this inflation. And some of that inflation is caused by, paying $1 billion or more per day to house and feed illegal aliens. I mean, they're being put in four-star hotels. They're being give, free money right off the bat, and we take care of them. In places like New York, they're prioritizing illegal aliens at the hospitals because they don't want to pay for overtime for translators. So between the hours of 9 to 5, they want to make sure they get all the people that don't speak English in there first, so that they don't have to pay for translators. The same in Virginia, in rural counties, when a law enforcement officer tries to arrest somebody for a misdemeanor, now it costs them more because they have to hire a translator in there to fill out the forms and to appear in court.
So, Captain, where are you going to be able to cut into there's a traditional blue advantage inside the Beltway in Virginia. There's a traditional red advantage in the military areas of Virginia. Where I know you're going everywhere, but how do you cut into the Democratic edge that you need to win?
So in 2020, when I ran for Congress in the 10th congressional district, which includes the infamous Loudoun County, uh, I I moved that needle 13% from where Joe Biden won by 19%. I took it down to 6%. All I have to do is keep moving that needle. We won't win there, but we at least we can move the needle enough so that when the South comes out, like you said, Hampton Roads, which is very predominantly military, and Roanoke area, Southwest area like Hayside and Abingdon and Bristol, they'll come out. And right now we're leading by over 30% in those areas. That will make up the difference for the Northern Virginia tranche, and that's how we're going to win.
It's
I mean,
also
we've
an
seen this.
extraordinarily expensive state. Have the groups come in and let's get your website out there. I think it's hung for VA, HUNGFORVA.com. But how do people contribute small dollars to you? Because your dollar spent goes a lot further than a big 501c4 money.
Yes, sir. No, absolutely. I mean, just look, if Comrade Bernie can amass $200 million from $20 donations, then surely we can do the same. It's very expensive to advertise in Virginia. It's about $1.93 million per week, and Tim
Ooh.
Kaine has unlimited.
We just lost the feed, but that's okay because I know what the website is hung for VA. Captain Cow is okay. You're still there, but we've lost your audio,
Oh,
Captain. I want to make
oh.
try it again. What's the website?
It's hungforva.com.
There we go.
HUNGFORV.
And it's small dollars matter. I keep telling this audience again and again, we can win the Virginia race. A lot of people said no at the beginning, but they forget Ed Gillespie almost won his race, and there were no resources. All you need are resources. But how much a week is it in Virginia?
Almost $2 million per week.
Wow. Okay. Well, number one, last question. What is your primary ad appealing to? What is the number one thing you're talking about in your advert in your 30 to 60-second ads on television?
Well, it's really to introduce the audience to me. You know, Tim Kaine's been around for 30 years, and I've been paid by the same American taxpayer, except he's got millions of dollars to show for it, and I have scars. So, you know, he's been feeding himself and taking care of himself and special interests. I've been fighting for the American people.
Captain, keep up the good fight. Keep coming back. Hungforva.com, HUNGFORVA.com. The Commonwealth, I can't wait to vote for you. I'll be back down to vote early in about a couple of weeks, and then I will do that and keep talking to you in the closing stretch because Virginia is winnable. Thanks for being up early, Captain, because there are a lot of people driving the Pentagon right now, as you know, and we want to talk to everyone in Virginia, and we do that all across the state. Let me remind everyone what I began to tell you in the last segment, 25truth.com, 25truth.com. It is the Heritage Foundation explanation of the lies being told by Democrats about Project 2025, which is a think tank compendium of proposals and people. It's got nothing to do with Donald Trump. He is not bound by it. He did not contribute to it. His campaign did not adopt it. It's what conservatives, and conservatives often disagree among themselves about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I am, for example, a SHIPS Act. All right, I want to throw a lot of federal money at building up the Navy's ability to build ships. Jerry Hendricks, who you've heard on this show, Captain Hendricks, like cat and cow, one of the defense intellectuals making a difference. I think he's over in Europe giving a speech on defense supply chains. All we need to do is build up our capacity to deter China. And we have to deter China because it's become so aggressive in its supply side sabotage. And supply side sabotage, you saw what the result of that was in Israel. So head over to 25truth.com, 25truth.com. Good morning, Byron. How are you?
Good morning, Hugh. Doing well, thank you.
I had a question for David Drucker, and you normally listen, so I'm going to ask you. Can Virginia become state eight? There are seven battlegrounds: Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona. Can Virginia be state eight?
Yes, I think it can. I listened to your conversation with David, and yes, I think it can. Um, I was really struck by the New York Times poll yesterday that was just of the three um, Sun Belt swing states, meaning Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. But it was they asked one of these questions: have Donald Trump's policies helped you or hurt you? And have Kamala Harris's policies helped you or hurt you? And in every state, nearly a 10 point, by nearly a 10-point margin, more people said that Trump's policies had helped them than said that Harris's policies that helped them. It's like the most basic question in the world. It's not even asking about income. It's not asking about any specific aspect of your life, but your whole life. And so my guess is that is true in Virginia as well. And so when you look at the polls, which would show, I think, Harris leading right now in Virginia, then you look at that question and you say, boy, I wonder how that's going to actually work out when it comes time to vote.
Byron, you know a lot more than I do about the science of polling, but I have read the Pew Research poll data on polling response bias. Turns out that older left-wing women are far more likely to answer the phone and talk at length to a pollster than young white men. So how do they fix that? I really do not know how you correct that.
Well, I'm not sure. I will say, and I'm not an expert in this either, but clearly after 2016 and then again after 2020, a lot of pollsters did a lot of kind of soul searching and trying to think.
Oh, we lost Byron. I don't know what happened there. This happened with Hung. You're back. Okay, go ahead, Byron.
Okay, I'll stand in the same place. A lot of pollsters after 2016 and 2020 did kind of a lot of soul searching, saying how can we accurately find the Trump voter in the future, and so you have to think they're trying to do it better. I've for one have been kind of interested in the New York Times Siena polls, which have shown, I think, more Trump voters than similar New York Times polls showed in 2016 and 2020. So, I mean, they're trying to fix this problem, but the problem that you said, which is that, look, they're just young men are just going to be less patient about spending time with pollsters, than someone retired is. I'm not sure you can actually fix that problem.
Byron York, every day I listen to the commentary podcast, every single day. And until Joe Biden dropped out, the leader of that band, John Podhoretz, would say, I can't believe how bad, meaning tactically and strategically, the Biden campaign is. They're not embracing victory for Israel. They're not embracing immigration reform. They're not doing anything. And then, of course, Biden drops out. They have not yet begun the same song, but I think I want to ask you, is it possible the Harris campaign is just run by bad campaign professionals? Because I think it's a nightmare for her to go to the border. I think that's really stupid because I know the old Chris Matthews line, hang a lantern on your problem, but going to the border is going to illustrate that she's never gone to the border. Then she's going to Wisconsin to give a speech on economics, so she's going to the northern border and she hasn't done any policy yet. These, to me, indicate that her own internal numbers are very, very bad on immigration and very, very bad on Wisconsin.
Well, I would push back a little bit. Yeah, yes, her numbers on immigration and the border are terrible. There's no doubt about it. We know that from public polls, and you have to assume that private polls are not going to be very different there. But don't go too far in this. Obviously, in all of the polling averages nationally, she's leading. And the one that I use, one I think is the best, Real Clear Politics average of polls, she's up by 2.2%. Just had two really good national polls, one from NBC and one from CBS. And when you look at the swing state polls, she's leading in maybe 3 or 4 of them out of 7. They're all extremely tight, extremely tight. So you look at that, they look at that, and this is not a disaster. And also, if you look at the enthusiasm level of people who actually go to her rallies. Now, of course, that's a self-selected group. They're going to rallies, but boy, are they enthusiastic. It is sky-high enthusiasm for her, which is what people often feel when a terrible burden has been released, right? They feel happy. So that
it's a relief rally. Yeah. Now, there was a huge
rally.
crowd
Absolutely.
for Trump yesterday in Pennsylvania, and he,
There
of
was.
course, if you extend my model, they go where they're worried. He's going to Pennsylvania, I think, because that's where you win. If he wins Pennsylvania, almost impossible for me to see how he wins. I want to throw another state aid at you. I'm in Maine. I'll be in Maine for a couple more weeks. We watch Hulu. The Hulu ads are all for Kamala Harris. Now, Maine is not up for grabs. Maine is going to be a Kamala Harris state. Why is she running ads in Maine? Because it includes northern New Hampshire, and there's no other way to get to northern New Hampshire. Have you been studying New Hampshire? Is that state aid?
I have not been studying New Hampshire, so I can't actually tell you about that. But what you're getting at is that are there some states that Trump lost in 2020 that he could pick up in 2024? And his way to victory is, first of all, got to win all the states that he won in 2020, and he won North Carolina in 2020. So if he lost that, that would be a really devastating blow. Got to win all the states he won in 2020. Then, if he picked up only Georgia and Pennsylvania, he would win. He gets to 270. But if he picks up Georgia and Arizona, and then he picks up Pennsylvania, that's a big win. If he picks up Nevada, that's only 6, doesn't help him a huge amount. So he's got to win one of these 3 Rust Belt states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin.
And he could win all 3. He could lose all 3. Byron, I gotta finish since you brought up North Carolina. Mark Robinson has gone down in flames. His whole team quit. This is a professional question. Democrats had John Edwards. He had terrible Oppo research on him. Then they nominated Cal Cunningham, another deeply flawed for personal reasons candidate, another Democrat. Now Mark Robinson, deeply flawed for personal characteristics. He's a Republican. Is there no professional opposition research in North Carolina?
What's going on in North Carolina? Listen, I agree. Robinson's a terrible candidate, has no business being a Republican nominee. Republicans have waited too long to act on the problem, so they can't actually get him off the ballot. It's kind of astonishing. And I mean, even before all the revelations that came around from CNN the last few days, he was a terrible candidate. You're right about John Edwards. He was but he was a one-term senator. He actually got elected, and then, in kind of a bad choice, he was chosen to be the vice presidential nominee of the Democratic Party in 2004. And he's been in exile until this recent Democratic convention, where he actually showed up. The ghost of campaign scandals passed.
Okay, quick question on Mark Robinson. Andrew Kaczynski, the K-File at CNN, broke the story. Somebody gave him that story, right? Andrew Kaczynski's not running around porn sites trying to figure out who the black Nazi is. So I assumed at first that was the Democrats. Now I think it was the Republicans that take the sting out so that people would split their ticket, vote for Trump at the top and dump Robinson in the second. Just make sure it's in the cycle early and into the mix. What do you think? Was it GOP or Democratic Oppo research?
Actually makes sense. Depending on the timing, if this was not really a leak, but if somebody actually supplied some of this information to CNN, then you have to think, well, how long did CNN take reporting it and checking it out, which could have been quite a while. And my guess is that somebody gave the information to them long enough before the deadline to take him off the ballot in hopes that he could be taken off the ballot, and that would be a Republican.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And then they sat on it. Not Andrew did another big scoop against the Democrats. I think he's a fine reporter. He goes after anyone that gives him good oppo. But that oppo came from somewhere, and I don't think it came from the Democrats. Stay tuned, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you, Byron York. Follow him on X at Byron York.